Let's take a look at the 4 types of commenting in C#. The first type, or actually the first 2 types, are borrowed from the C, C++, and Java environments. The first one is single line commenting. It's just 2 forward slashes, and everything after those forward slashes is ignored by the compiler. You can see here that VisualStudio.net turns it green. So here I'll put single line commenting just as an example. And we can see here that after the 2 forward slashes and after that 1 line of commenting, we return back to normal code. So int x equals 10 is treated as normal code. It is not commented out. We also have multi-line commenting, which is a forward slash asterisk. You can see here it's turned the rest of the code after it green, followed by an asterisk forward slash. You'll notice that if you start playing around with multi-line commenting and hitting enter like I've done here, that VisualStudio.net automatically adds in these little extra asterisks for you. I'm personally not a big fan, so I try to remove them myself. With multi-line commenting, everything in between the forward slash asterisk and asterisk forward slash is completely ignored. This is 1 line. This is yet another line. Now, with single line and multi-line commenting, you have to actually be looking at the code to read that comment. Now that might sound a little silly, but when we put it into context and we compare that statement with XML commenting, you'll see that there's actually commenting that you can extract from the code and view without having to actually look at the source. So with single line and multi-line commenting, we actually have to view the source to read the comments. Another style of commenting is the to-dos, and we've seen to-dos already. The syntax is pretty much the same as single line commenting. It's just 2 forward slashes and a comment. Change this variable name. Okay, the only difference between a single line comment and a to-do is that we've put in this to-do token with a colon. Now, the cool part about the to-dos is that those are actually extracted from the code and output into our task list. We can see here that if I go to View and Task List, I have a to-do there. If you don't see the to-dos, make sure you hit the right drop down and hit Comments. Okay, well, now these three types of commenting are incredibly useful. To-dos are great for those times when you're working on a large block of code. There's one last piece that you couldn't quite finish and you need to get that code checked in to the code share, whatever you're using, whether it's TFS or SVN. And other developers on your team are going to do a get on that code and download it. And you want to let them know when they look at that code that there's something else that needs to be done. To-dos are a great way of doing that, especially because they do show up in the task list, which your single line and multi-line commenting do not. In addition to those 3, we also have XML commenting, which we can add to a namespace, a class, or a method, or a property. For XML commenting, it goes 1, 2, and 3 forward slashes, and it adds a summary here. So I'll put in a summary. Can't type today. This is the main class of my application. Go ahead and keep it simple for now. Now, you're probably looking at this going, yeah, so what? So it's added some XML tags. But the really cool thing about XML commenting is that it can actually be extracted from your code. Let me show you an example of XML commenting in all of its glory, and then we'll take a look at a Microsoft example of XML commenting. So I will write up a quick function here. I'll even have a return type. My function string arg1 long arg2 and return 0. Okay, we'll go over not only methods and return types and so on, but we'll also go over naming conventions, so you'll be able to name your variables a little bit better than what I've named mine here. But let's go ahead and add XML commenting to this method. So it goes 1, 2, 3 forward slashes and adds a summary. This is a demo of XML commenting. And it adds XML tags for my arguments. This is the first argument. This is the second. And it even adds an XML tag for my return value. This returns 0 since no code is written. Okay. Now, the cool thing about XML commenting is that it shows up in IntelliSense. So if I'm using IntelliSense and I type my function, I can see here that it shows up in IntelliSense. This is a demo of XML commenting. Open parentheses. The first argument pops up and it says arg1. This is the first argument. I'll type in a little variable there, or a little value. And arg2, this is the second. Now, with all of the built-in Microsoft code that you'll be using, you'll see examples of XML commenting all the time. Let's take a look at Console, for example. Console, as you start typing, it shows you XML commenting for the class, like we've done here at the top of the program class. Represents the standard input, output, and error stream for console applications. I will take a look at WriteLine. WriteLine writes text representation of the specified objects. Open parentheses on WriteLine, and it shows me all of the parameters. And this version has no parameters, so I'll hit the down arrow, find a version that does. Double value, the value to write. So this is really cool, very useful. Once again, with XML commenting, you don't have to actually have the source code in front of you to be able to read it. The great thing about it is that if you're writing a block of code, whether it's a DLL or what have you, that other developers are going to be using, and they're not going to have the source code in front of them, please put XML commenting so that they can understand what your methods do, what the parameters are needed for, and what the return values from your methods are. So it's really useful for sharing that type of on-demand documentation with other developers.